2% and high protein of 11 to 13% is graded as premium, while the low protein and gluten wheat is graded as standard. And this was something very apparent last season when the farmers were paid according to the quality of their wheat. So improvement in the gluten and protein quality would also then feed into the increase in the return on investment that the farmer will get if we, through this study, are able to see the varieties that have high gluten, high protein content. And during the literature studies for this presentation, nutrition studies appear to have been done at a private company level, but no publications were done to date. And hence there's need for us to dig deep and find out if the varieties that we have in Zimbabwe can be able to provide protein and gluten at levels that will be suitable for us, not to then need to import wheat to mix with our wheat so that it's of the standard quality that is required. And the aim of the study is to establish a solid foundation of leaf rust resistance and high nutritional quality of bred wheat in Zimbabwe. The objectives are to phenotypic characteristics of 36 Zimbabwean wheat varieties for field resistance to leaf rust, and then to correlate the leaf rust infection with yield and the hectoliter mass, and then to evaluate the protein and gluten content in spring wheat, which is the soft wheat varieties in Zimbabwe for bread baking. The hypothesis: there are useful genetic resistant sources to leaf rust within the Zimbabwean gene pool. Then leaf rust infection is positively correlated with yield and hectoliter reduction for susceptible cultivars. And the hectoliter will be explained when we explain the materials and methods. Then Zimbabwean spring wheat varieties have high gluten and protein content suitable for bread making. Then on the materials and methods, just to describe that, the study is going to be carried out in 5 sites. As stated, SIDCO Rationale Research Station and Art Farm and Panmure in Marsh Central in Shamba, and Cecil Farm in Manicaland and Chiredzi Research Station. The materials and methods that we're going to use for each and every objective. For the first objective, we're going to use disease scoring, and this will be done at flowering using a rating scale. And the leaf rust field response of entries will be collected based on the severity of the using the scale that we'll be using. For example, 60S would then maybe refer to 60% severity with a susceptible field response. Then objective number 2, we are going to use the coefficient analysis of leaf rust, where the severity and incidence disease cause from field trials will be converted into coefficients of infection for analysis, so that we can be able to analyze the data. Then the yield data in tons per hectare will be calculated from a net plot in all the Zimbabwean, in all the sites that we are going to be doing the studies in. And then the hectoliter mass in kilograms per hectoliter will be done manually. So the hectoliter test is a test that is done using a kg of wheat grain, and then you put it into that hectoliter tester. It's a machine, and then it will give you the reading. So it speaks to the softness of the flour, of the quality of the flour, whether or not it's going to give us a soft bread or a good quality bread. So if the hectoliter mass is high, say greater than 80%, then it also relates to the quality of the flour that you are going to get, and the productivity of the flour is also going to be high. Then objective number 3, we're going to use the NIR machine to test protein and gluten tests. And the NIR machine is the near infrared spectroscopy machine that we are going to use to test on the protein and gluten, and that is going to be done at harvesting. And then on the site description and crop management, planting is going to start in the 2nd week of May. We had planned to start planting in the 1st week of May, but because of a delayed planting that happened in the summer season, we are still harvesting, and on the sites we're still finishing off the harvesting of the maize, and then we're going to come in on the 15th of May to plant the wheat. It's going to be hand planted, and all the other agronomic practices are going to be done according to the standard stipulated regulations of wheat. Of note is the fact that we are not going to be using fungicides because we want to see the inbuilt host resistance that the varieties will have to rust. And then we're going to harvest the physiological maturity, which is at around 30% moisture. Then the experimental procedure. This experiment is going to be carried out on 5 sites, and it's going to have 36 entries and 2 replications to give a 6x6 alpha lattice RCBD design. And the statistical analysis that we're going to use, we're going to be using the breeding management software, and the treatment of means to be separated at 0.05% significant difference. And then this is the skeletal ANOVA based on the experimental procedure that we have just given, where we are going to be having the blocks, the replications times the sites, and this is going to be analyzed using Fisher's LSD of 0.05. And then the expected outcome, the wheat varieties are expected to vary in their response to the field leaf rust infestation, and then susceptible varieties are expected to show low yield levels, and varieties with good protein and gluten content suitable for bread making are expected to be identified. So in conclusion, the study will then help us to make help the farmers to make an informed decision on variety choice in line with the cost structure, reducing the cost structure by having to buy fungicides. If they just buy the varieties that will be tolerant or resistant to leaf rust, then it also saves. And then the issues to do with quality, identification of high gluten and protein wheat will also then speak to us not needing to import a lot of wheat to mix with our wheat, because our wheat will be of good quality for baking. So this is the conclusion of the proposal.
Okay, you are through.
Yes, sir.
Any comments or questions on the presentation?
I have.
Dr. Kamtando.
Wendy?
Yes, sir.
If I understood your problem very well, you said the problem that we have in Zimbabwe is that the varieties that are currently on the market have low nutritional value and are also susceptible to diseases, most specifically the rusts.
Yes,
but at the same time you're saying you would want to screen varieties, that Zimbabwean varieties, for nutritional quality and disease resistance.
Yes.
So my confusion is, where do you expect to see, the best varieties when in actual fact we don't have any varieties that we can say are of high nutritional value and are resistant to rust?
Okay, that was based on the studies that were done in the past. As I stated, 2018, 2017, 2015, there were some studies that were done that gave us that data. But since then, there have been new varieties that have been developed, and we even have new varieties that we will be screening together with those the new varieties that have been registered, to see if now the varieties we have varieties that are now resistant to the new strains of leaf rust. And it's also to do with the fact that the leaf rust is virulent, so it tends to change. So it means that over time, varieties that might have appeared to have some degree of resistance or tolerance, over time, maybe that would change. So there's need for us to screen and see. So we're not screening the varieties that we already have in the traditional basket. They will be part of the study, but we're also screening new varieties that have come on board and new varieties that are still in the screening phase.
Okay.
I'm a bit confused because from my breeding background, during the process of variety development, you actually screen to identify those that are resistant and to identify those that are susceptible. So at the end of the day, when you get to register a variety, you already be having data that supports that this one is tolerant, this one is resistant. So my question is, why would you want to see varieties that are already commercialized and breeders already will be having information related to their levels of tolerance or resistance to disease?
Okay, like I said, we are screening commercialized and varieties that are not yet commercialized as well. Hence the 36 different varieties. Because the commercialized ones currently...
I think you should say, I think for your study to make sense, you should say you are screening newly developed experimental genotypes, not varieties, because a variety is a genotype which is already commercialized.
Okay.
If it's not yet commercialized, it's called, you just call it a genotype.
Okay.
So you can say breeding programs have been focusing on developing new wheat lines. I assume that you are dealing with lines because we don't have hybrids yet in Zimbabwe. Wheat lines that have got disease resistance and also high nutritional value. So in that experiment, you actually include the checks, which are the commercial varieties, to compare, to see if you are making any gain, genetic gain in disease resistance in your breeding program.
Okay, I think we had actually included the checks where we have we have 3 varieties that we have as the checks. And maybe I do hear you that there is need for rephrasing.
Please rewrite your problem statement and your justification so that you make it clear that you are not screening commercial varieties, but you are screening newly developed experimental varieties which you think have been developed for resistance to rusts and nutritional quality. Yeah. Then on your experimental design, you said you are going to use a 6x6 alpha lattice design. You said 6x6 alpha lattice RCBD design. Actually, it's my first time to hear about this. I have never heard of an experimental design like that one. 6x6 alpha lattice RCBD design.
Also my first time.
Okay, maybe it's the way I'm putting it across, but what I'm just trying to say is that it's going to be, it's a square design and it's a divisible design superimposed in an RCBD, and all entries fit into one block.
No. An alpha lattice is a different design from an RCBD design.
Okay.
So those are 2 different designs altogether. But with the entries that you have, the number of treatments.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, the alpha lattice will be much more effective than the RCB design, which is more effective when you have treatments that are less than or equal to 16.
Okay. Well noted.
So you really need help. You really need help on your experimental design.
All right.
Did you take this to your supervisor, or you're just doing this on your own?
No, she actually saw it, and yes, she saw it. She's just that I have not
Yeah,
had an
you
opportunity to meet up with her because she has been on
should
leave,
not make
but she
mistakes
did
on
see it.
on
It's okay.
the whole thing.
No, that's
Yeah.
okay. It has been
And
noted.
what was the rationale behind choosing the 5 sites that you are suggesting to use in this experiment?
The 5 sites are our research stations.
What are the reasons behind choosing those sites?
Okay, I wanted to see the differences in the different agroecological regions. Then for those 5 sites, those are the sites that we usually work with in terms of the research stations that we usually do experiments with. So it would have been easier for me to conduct the trial and visit, as well as to collect the data for those 5 sites.
But are you aware that for disease screening, you really need the infestation to happen for you to be able to see the differences between the genotypes?
That's true. And those areas that we have
Sure
selected, they are susceptible according to
those sites are they hotspots?
They are, according to the literature that I found by Dr. Soko and Mutari in 2018. They stated that these areas are hotspot areas. And that's why I even left out, we have a research station in Kadoma, but the severity of the disease in that area is not as high. So I left it out.
Actually, fungal diseases. You don't expect to see fungal diseases in areas that are hot and dry. Yeah, so you made a good decision on that. Okay, those are my questions.
I have one.
Yes, Dr. Rukari.
What is the post hoc test that you are going to use to separate means?
I'll have to look into that. I had just gone as far as the skeletal ANOVA, but like Dr. Kamtando was saying, I still need to relook at the design, and I'll give feedback on the post hoc as well.
Okay, just give me an example of any post hoc test that you know.
Offhand, at the moment, I cannot think of any.
Okay.
Okay. I don't know whether we can take one more presenter before lunch, or we go straight into lunch.
We are tired, Doc. Let's break for lunch.
Doc,
Then we are going to resume at 2. Hello? Yeah, can we start at 2?
Even 1:45 is fine.
1:45, okay. So
are we going to use the same link kana kuti munoti paimwe?
What do you want? A new link or this one?
I don't know kuti inenge ichiri active here. I just want you to be guided. It's my first time to use this.
It can be active for forever.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so we just continue with it.
So 1:45 it is then.
Yeah, 1:45.
And we are starting with Wongai.
Okay.
Thank you very much to everyone who has presented and all the listeners.
Thank you.
Noted.
Thank you.
Okay.